From its inception, the Great Western Railway always did things differently, standardizing time and its locomotive fleet, from engineers like Gooch Armstrong, Dean Churchward Collett and Hawkesworth, names as distinctive as their designs. In the age of Victorian industrialization, Turner the painter captured the moment best, the power of progress catching up with nature. Born from Brunel's broad gauge, the GWR began a legacy that endured even as it became the western region of British Railways. The spirit of the GWR still lives on, for all who marvel at its western glory.
Train 742 is reported date for November,
And characteristically, our journey begins at Penzance, the most western point of Britain. And from there we head eastward, passing the many branch lines that connect Cornwall to the mainland. Over the majestic River Tamar and into Plymouth. We continue ever onwards on the up line towards London and the grand citadel that is London Paddington. Ranelagh Bridge and Old Oak Common. These were the depots for the Top-Link express locomotives, where the finest engines were prepared and serviced. Ranelagh Bridge was a spotter's dream, complete with turntable and water columns, but for residents a nightmare. Backing down towards the terraces, conditions were dirty and noisy. Almost impossible to keep laundry clean. Old Oak Common buzzed with activity, with castles, kings and halls, to name a few, names that still echo through the hearts of enthusiasts like mythic legends. Close-up of the nameplates reveal an aristocratic tradition honouring stately homes, castles, dukes and earls. At the turn of the century, the Great Western Railway stood at its most elegant and regal. Gone was Brunel's austere broad gauge, and in its place a modern standard and new era of travel. Britain's railways were profitable. The GWR crafted the idea of the English Riviera as a clever marketing campaign, first enticing the upper classes, then opening the seaside to the masses. The Victorian resort was born.
What shall I do? I want to go to Birmingham and they're taking me on to cruise. Send me back to London.
And in an age of fierce railway rivalry, the GWR made it clear it was the Great Western that would get you there. With Armstrong and Dean building on Gooch's legacy in the mid to late 19th century, with locomotives like the Armstrong Singles and the Dean Goods engine as an example, it was George Jackson Churchward who revolutionized the GWR. His city-class City of Truro was allegedly the first locomotive to reach 100 miles per hour, although the Great Bear, the first British Pacific, was not successful. Inspired by the latest European and American designs, Churchward ushered in standardization and the tapered boiler design. The Star and Saint classes marked the biggest leap in express motive power. His successor, Charles Collett, would further develop the Saints and Stars. In the 1920s, the Stars evolved into the Castles and Kings. The Saints were also further developed into the Hall class, the Grangers and the Manors. It was somewhat unfortunate that the Great Western's greatest engineer, Churchward, would meet his end hit down by a passing train. Class, the most powerful locomotive in Britain by the late 20s and early 30s, surpassed the Southern Railway's Lord Nelson's. This marked the fierce rivalry between the big four railway companies, with famous top-link crack expresses like the Bristolian, Cheltenham Fly and the Cornish Riviera. The GWR celebrated its centenary in this golden era, unaware that this was also the beginning of the end. The Great Depression and the rising tensions of Europe signalled a challenging world, and soon the course of history would forever change. With the railways mobilised, Operation Pied Piper had overseen large-scale evacuation trains of children from the cities, but the GWR remained stoic amongst the hard conditions of the Blitz. Charles Collett's tenure saw the GWR go through its most challenging years. His successor, Frederick Hawkesworth, refined the halls into a modified variant and introduced the counties. A new class, the cathedrals, was planned as a successor to the castles and kings, although plans were abandoned. The cost of World War had made the railways of Britain bankrupt, and by 1947 were in public ownership. Britain was rebuilding herself. Despite sweeping changes brought by nationalisation, the Western region retained its distinct identity. Much remained familiar under British railways. The mighty kings and castles still ruled the roost. Their brass dome covers and Brunswick green livery showed a family resemblance shared by all Great Western locomotives. Coal remained the nation's lifeblood, fueling her economy and powering industry. Even as modernization became the new watchword, yet Western locomotives continued to display a certain unity of style, elegant, purposeful, and unmistakably GWR in spirit. Express services to the West Country carried a renewed air of dignity. With their reintroduction of the classic chocolate and cream livery, trains like the Torbay Express departed Paddington at 11:50, bound for the sunlit resorts of Paignton and Kingswear, rekindling memories of the Golden Age. Paddington opened in 1854, was designed by Brunel himself. It became a hub of transport and commerce, witnessing the transition from steam to diesel and electric traction. Yet it was also an inconvenient station, built for arrivals or departures, but not both. The end of steam was here, and the dirtiest word was diesel. With steam planned to end by 1965, the Western region being the first in Britain, and the beaching cuts looming, their replacements, the Class 52 Western diesel hydraulics, Class 35s, and the warship class. The appalling state of this 2884 class was all too common in the final days of steam. Even the mighty 9Fs, with Evening Star built as late as 1960, the last steam locomotive built for British Railways, among them were left to languish in the long lines of neglected locomotives at scrapyards, destined to be cut up and cast onto the dustbin heap of history, an appalling waste of public money. The once mighty Kings were made redundant and withdrawn in a single year, 1962, fading into neglect. King George V was planned for preservation, but most were lost. The castles were still being fitted with double chimneys, the last added in 1961. Most were withdrawn between 1963 and 1964, leaving only 11 in service in the last year of Western Steam in 1965. But Western Steam would not be forgotten. We go back to the late 1950s to witness rare footage of a slip coach at Vista. Large Prairie Tank 6164 brings in stock with the slip coach positioned at the rear. King James II backs down, and all is set for a prompt departure. Preserved for modern day, the survivors rescued from Woodham scrapyard stand as a powerful testament to the indomitable spirit and timeless legacy of Western Steam, preserved for generations yet to come. Western Steam lives on.